Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the CSFL podcast kickoff show. We're back here. I believe this is episode 5 now. We're slowly getting through the episode numbers as the season goes on. And today we're going to be going through different player records that are happening through the season, see whether any are going to be broken on the CSFL record. And to take us through this and discuss this, I've got actually three hosts, 3 guests on the show. First up is probably the most regular on the show. We've got Josh from the Titans. Josh, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good. And then we've also got, our resident stats guru probably at this stage, because he's the one who's been putting together some of these slides. We've got the assistant GM of the Lions, Rob. Rob, welcome back.
Nice to be here.
And then finally, we've got someone who was on the show a couple of episodes ago, probably last season now, but long-time listener, long-time commenter, probably most recognised on the forum for his Jazz posters of recent, and that is Jed, the Colts GM. Jed, great to have you back on the show.
It's great to be here. Go Jazz.
Great stuff. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Rob, really, just to talk us through the slides and any observations. Then we'll open up to the floor. So we've also got one slide on offense, one slide on defense. But yeah, over to you to take us through.
Yeah, there's it's quite simple, really. Everyone in their own team, whether you're on a path for the number 1 overall pick or whether you're on course for the Super Bowl, you always look around to see how your player is doing compared to previous seasons and previous players. So rather than everyone do it on by themselves, we thought we'd gather all the records that are of some sort of relevance and put them together and see how players are stacking up compared to it with previous seasons, and see if any records could be broken in the 4 or 5 games that are left over until the end of the season. So yeah, as Chris said, we've got 2 of the slides. One is for offense, one is for defense and special teams. We've kept some random. We were discussing this earlier, Chris. We kept some like fluke records, shall we say, off of this. For example, punt return yards. Someone could be off the charts right now, and then within a game or 2 could suddenly become the leader and close to the record holder automatically. So those sort of plays, regardless of how much Josh tries to claim that special teams is figured out and he's got it all sorted, I still think it's fluke. So we'll just consider it a fluke record. So yeah, Chris?
Pretty sure I'm leading again this year. Just saying.
Yeah, okay. Let's not dive into the special teams. Let's dive into the offense to begin with. So, I mean, I guess interesting observations really let's start with Jed maybe. I mean, for me, there's a couple here that probably could be broken. Are there any that you can see looking here that you probably will expect to be broken this season?
Yeah, I like definitely the QB rating is going to be broken by Matt Stafford. Alex Smith might also pass it, and Manning could do it as well, especially after that Vincent Jackson trade. I mean, Manning's just been going out of his head. Smith had some early season struggles where he was sub 90 in QB rating, but he's been well over 100, for the last 7 or 8 games. And then obviously Stafford, as long as he doesn't go down, he should stick that 128, and that should be a record. And I honestly think that'll be really hard to break as the seasons go by.
Yeah, and Josh, have you got any others that you can see being broken this season apart from the passer rating?
Yeah, I think we're all pretty much agreed on the passer rating. That's going to get shattered this year. I can see Stafford breaking the passing touchdowns record. It just kind of depends on in 5 games how much you guys decide to play him. But he's averaging about 3 touchdowns a game this year. So the record's 37, and he's sitting at 30. That should not only be broken but shattered if you guys actually play all 5 games with him. Another one that I was taking a real close look at was which one was it? I apologize, you guys. Was rushing yards. I was just kind of shocked at exactly how absurd of a year Adrian Peterson had. Like, for me, it kind of just really put it in perspective, because Jamal Charles, we've all agreed, is just having a fantastic year, but he's not going to even come close to it. He's only at 1308. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, because like I was looking at that earlier when he sent us a slide, and I was just like, oh my God, Adrian Peterson's last season was just so good. Other than that, no, I don't really think anything else is going to get broken. I mean, like, I guess Sanchez could break the interception record. I don't want to put that voodoo on him, so I'm not going to speak that into existence. But he's only got 5 left, so That's a kind of a possibility. And longest pass has already been broken this season, and so has longest catch. And I was actually going to point that out until I realized that the 90-something one I have was beaten by the 99 one by Colt McCoy and Vidal Hazelton. So kudos to them for already having 2 records for the season.
And I do think Deshaun Jackson has a decent chance to break that receiving record. He's still got 5 games. He's at 1282 right now. Garcon would have had a good chance at that too, but he missed 2 games and he'd need to average like 160 yards a game to break it. But Deshaun Jackson with 5 games left, I still think has a good chance. And QB, because Alex Smith's also at 30 touchdowns right now. I'm pretty sure he might be at 29.
He's 29. He's 29, along with I think Peyton Manning is also on 28 as well.
Yeah, so we'll probably have three quarterbacks break the QB touchdown rating.
Yeah, I
don't think anyone's touching the yardage. Alex Smith would need 400 yards a game to finish to even come close.
Yep, I didn't include Alex Smith on the touchdown simply because he's 1 less than Stafford and will play 1 game less than Stafford.
Yeah. So Stafford's going to be the sole record holder, no doubt.
Yeah,
unless you guys sit him.
Yeah.
Well, if it's up to me, he won't be sat. If it's up to Chris, he will be sat. So
he's going to be sat. We're not messing around this season.
There is one more that I think is that will be not only smashed but absolutely shattered. Is the rushing attempts by Chris Ivory. He's already on 304 for the season. The record is 336. He's averaging close to 26 per game. If he just averages that, he'll not only smash it, he'll be getting close to 400 rushing attempts.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was the one that stood out for me. And the other thing that stood out for me with this, what really in terms of the observations here, was just I was surprised how many, records for want of them being a bad record or a good record, Mark Sanchez holds.
Yes.
In terms of the current leader in the league, kind of says everything. So he could well be the player who has, the most passing attempts in terms of our league record. He could also have the most interceptions in terms of our league record. And he's also pretty, I don't think he'll break the David Garrard passing completions one, but interesting that he is, up there in terms of those 3 random sets of passing records.
But really. Vikings are under a new GM too, so they might be changing it up. I haven't looked at any Vikings games over the last couple of weeks since we got that new GM in there.
There is one that I find extremely impressive, and that's considering that we all agree that getting one receiver to be like the passing target machine, right? Like it's almost impossible. At the Lions, we struggle to get Dwayne Bowe to get more than 7 or 8 targets per game. Deshaun Jackson is averaging close to 6 or 7 receptions per game. Mike Thomas's record at 117. That is just insane. That's close to the actual real NFL record, isn't it? 115 isn't the real NFL record?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
Of the other Michael Thomas, ironically, but no.
Nice.
I guess
we have 2 things. So we have 2 things that are certain in all realities.
Exactly.
Probably has a butt fumble because he's mediocre, and in all realities, this guy is a catch machine.
Yeah.
I think that's a good segue, actually, just for one other thing to just go an observation on this offensive records. Just open to anyone, really. Are there any other records on here, probably apart from the Mike Thomas one, that we think will probably stand the test of time for a little while?
Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson, probably the rushing record, unless if some team decides to go the Rouse route and actually have a competent rest of the team as well to keep attention off it, then maybe. So, just basically run the ball 300 times a game, 350 times a game. Possibly. I think if whoever, Stafford or Smith, breaks that passing record, the passing rating, that's not going to get overtaken anytime soon. As teams start to figure out defense as well. So teams will start to figure out how to slow down the passing game quite a bit.
I agree.
We struggled, I think, we definitely have at the Lions, and Alex Smith at the Colts is having a phenomenal year, and he's also not averaging close to what you would require to pass 4,700 passing yards for a season. Doesn't look like
400 yards once this year, and you'd need to.
Yeah. You need to
I
stay
think the
healthy
close,
and average close to that. So,
I think
like,
the closest anyone's come to that yet has been what Matt Schaub for the
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Last season with Jennings and Fitzgerald as the receivers. So you're still talking about elite receivers as well as a very good quarterback. In testing, we have managed to get Stafford up to 4,200, but that requires you to have injuries turned off. So that's the only way we could get him to play all 16 games and just be pass heavy as hell. That's the only way we managed to do it.
Yeah, I got Vince to break 5,000 for the first time last night, but it was on 0 injuries. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, because you also have to play sort of like a very deep passing route as well, passing tree. You have to have which increases the chances of them getting sacked, and then escalates to injuries and so on and so forth.
On a completely different side note, I did find 4 QB run plays last night that seemed to average 8 touchdowns a season. So fingers crossed on that one. But anyway,
fingers crossed for you, not for the rest of the teams.
Yeah, last thing we need is the Titans getting a QB running game back. That's the last thing anyone needs.
Yeah. Just since we're talking offense, I don't have it down here. I'll just bring it up again. The Lions are relatively, and I'll say the Lions because it's us and so on and so forth, but it might as well be brought up. Lions are averaging 38.8. We have 427 points scored. The record for points scored in a season is 547. So that's 120 points away, and we have 5 games to go. Admittedly,
it's definitely within reach.
Admittedly, 2 of those are against the Titans and the Jaguars. So we're talking about 2 of the best defenses in the league. So it's not a guarantee, but I'm just bringing it up because it's one of those that is on the table. As is Josh's points allowed record, but he plays the Lions one game as well, and he needs to keep everyone under 6 points per game.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Cool. So speaking of points allowed, shall we move on to the defense and have a look and see how that plays out? Let me just flick the slide over. Hopefully you can see it now. So Rob, do you want to just give us a quick breakdown of any observations you have here, and then we'll throw it open to the group? Yeah,
sure. First of all, I'll just state that I don't know why the table has come out like that. It should be a lot clearer, but okay, we'll ignore that part. It's basically just the regular defense and special teams. Admittedly, the defense is a lot harder to figure out because fumble recoveries, for some reason, the game includes recoveries of the player that fumbled in the first place. So, for example, if the quarterback fumbles and he recovers it, it's considered as a recovery itself, which may be correct statistically, but as a defensive point, that's kind of pointless for me, considering Philip Rivers, for example, leads the league in fumble recoveries, considering he's also close to leading the league in fumbles this season. So it's not really fair to put it as a record. Similarly, I haven't included longest punts and those kind of things because those can change week to week, and who really cares about punters anyway? So yeah.
Yeah, the only one I saw that I kind of wish that you'd added was deflections, but that's neither here nor there. So
I have it for this season, and I don't have it for players. I only have it for teams. So we might be able to do it from next. We might be able to do it from next season for teams, but I don't have it for players because the game doesn't track it. So
Jed, do you have any observations in terms of things you think might be broken, or things that just probably won't ever be broken for a little while?
I think I don't know if that was Mikey or not, but
no, I think we may have lost Jed. So
okay, anyway,
I'll dive in.
I'll take over then for a sec. I honestly think the defense in general and special teams, well, except for 1 or 2 of these, I think defense is very difficult to predict because I don't think anyone's figured out how to actually force an interception, for example. We've all figured out, most teams have figured out how to force a good passing offense or a good running offense or a high completion offense or whatever. I don't think anyone's really figured out how to force turnovers yet. So all of these are sort of either player or situation dependent, or it's sort of like a mix and match of all the right perfect storm for everything to combine. Like Josh Norman, for example, has 5 games to get 5 interceptions to get the record of 10. Just looking at the very first row, for example. on the face of it, you'd say no way. But at the same time, he's playing at the Chargers, who regularly put up 40 points a game and regularly concede 35 points a game. So he could be in the perfect place to do it. The Cushing, for example, I honestly didn't expect one linebacker on a good team to have that many tackles. He could get that 174. Dorsey just seems like he's got that record to himself. Whenever he wants it, he goes and breaks it.
Yeah, we need to just rename that the Dorsey sack.
Yeah. It was eventually by the end of it. Yeah.
Maybe we just need to put, Jacksonville's GM in brackets because he seems to be the only guy who managed to put up silly amounts of sacks with Dorsey.
Dorsey's only competing with himself every season.
Yeah, it looks like it. Until we get another defensive end, which the league is lacking to a certain degree. We've noticed that there's a very lack of top quality defensive ends around the league.
Yeah, we had a lot of them retired, didn't we? A lot of the top ones. Unfortunately, which kind of killed the market for that. But
on here, overall, to be honest, I think in tackles is possibly up for grabs by Cushing. He needs to average close to what he's been averaging over the last 6 or 7 games for the rest of the season. It's doable. I doubt he'll overtake it, but he'll get very, very close. He'll get closer than anyone will actually get to it.
I think the pancakes one's up. The pancakes one could be taken this year.
Yeah, the pancakes is one that
McNeil and Volmer, they're averaging about 10 a game, aren't they, more or less?
Yeah, I also think extra points will be overtaken by Scobie. Considering he's at 54, he only needs to get 62. That means that the Lions need to score 8 touchdowns between now and the end of the season over the next 5 games. That is doable. Now, field goals made and stuff, that sort of depends on situation, but I don't know, is 12 field goals over the course of 4 games, 3 field goals per game? That's doable, I think.
I think we're going to see that number come up now that we finally have a proper 2-minute offense.
That's true.
There's been so many times I've seen my team in field goal range and it just goes into quarter, and I'm like, what the hell?
I think next year we'll see that broken again.
Yeah,
on top of it, probably.
I also think Dennis has something figured out with D'Amico Ryans, and he could get that tackles for loss, or at least get close to it. He only needs 10 over the next 5 games. That's 2 per game, essentially. He's gone some games.
I think he has something figured out with sacks, period. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think that, field goal percentage, I think that is doable as well. Exactly bouncing off what you said with the AI's logic on it as well. So it should be able to take a few more, and that's doable, especially with Caleb Sturgis 16 out of 16. I mean, even if he misses 2 and makes another 7, he's still going to be above that 92% that he needs to get. Sacks allowed is also a very weird one. You could suddenly get like Glenn Dorsey come up against a third stringer, for example, and then he just absolutely destroys him.
With all 5 sacks.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'll tell you the interesting one that I've got on here. So obviously, the forced fumbles one. So you got, I think Richard Sherman, that 2011 was his rookie year, wasn't it? So that's an interesting thing to point out that I think that's the only guy who set a record in his rookie year. And in terms of the actual current possible person who may take it, I mean, we talked about it could be anyone really at this stage, but I mean, Acko is clearly a completely different position to Sherman. So it kind of shows that the forced fumbles, we could see that swing across different positions over the years, which is probably the only record we would see that with.
That is relevant for all things on defense, to be honest. That's why I also think that defensive MVP is far more valuable than overall MVP and offensive MVP. Because for offensive or overall MVP, it's like 95% of the awards are given to quarterbacks, whereas defensive awards can literally go to anyone at any time. So, whereas if you're an offensive player, you're really competing against realistically 25, 30 other players for MVP. Whereas on defense, you're competing against close to 300 other players, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, Jed, are you back on here now? Have you got?
I am here.
Hopefully, you're listening to the conversation before you sort of came back on. But is there anything in terms of the defense and special teams that stood out for you?
I think it's interesting the year Cushing's having. I think if he had a longer Well, if we had things figured out a little bit better early in the season, I think he might challenge for the tackles record next year. Going between engines, I mean, obviously we had Andra Davis, who had led the league in tackles last season, and now we've got Cushing doing the same thing. I don't think he'll get it this year.
I don't think he's going to lead next season because your
trending
defense is gonna get
down
better.
his tackle numbers with the pieces we added on defense at the trade deadline. But that's the most interesting one for me. Tackles for loss is interesting too. 39 is just an insane number. DeMarco Ryans with 22 or 29. That's crazy to me. I thought Cushing would be leading the league, and he has 22. But no, that's enough. There's
I think
more.
Josh, you had something in terms of the Cushing point as well.
I don't see Cushing winning it because your defense is going to get better. Like my first few seasons with Witherspoon was basically number 1 and number 2 in the league at tackles, and as my defense has gotten more talent, it's just starting to get sucked up by other players.
It's not only that. I also think it's offense. If you have a good offense, you can't get a defensive player to be close to good in tackles because you're never like the Colts or the Lions or the Titans or the Ravens or the Browns this season or the Dolphins. Those teams their defense are never on the field for more than 24, 25, 26 minutes a game.
And that's what's kind of impressive about Cushing, though, is
that is true. That if you consider how many tackles he gets, considering how long he's on the field for, that is a lot more impressive than Urlacher on the Bears last season, for example.
But he's also by far your best defensive linebacker, by quite a wide margin, and that's why I was pointing it out because at one point, Witherspoon was the only 90 rated defensive player on my defense. And that first season was just 10 tackles every game, 10 tackles, just like clockwork, 10 tackles. So, I think that's just one of those, hopefully as defense, as we start to figure out defense more, because I really do think all of us have, while we figured out defense initially, we immediately pivoted right back to offense because it's been so hard. But I do think that there's a few GMs in the league, Noah maybe doesn't know how to dominate on sacks, but his team still dominates on sacks. There's one or maybe 3 GMs who know how to generate those turnovers, whereas the rest of us kind of just know how to build a good overall defense.
We got a few new GMs or GMs that have recently joined the league that look like with another season or two they could be for example, I see the Dallas coach, the Dallas GM that just joined. Considering the lack of talent he had there on offense, he's doing very well. Given another season. Given another off season, that defense could be causing some concern for the Giants, who are leading that division there. The Raiders, their offense has been figured out. Looks like if he spent some time on defense, he could get something there as well. The Texans, he looks like he's quite active compared to previous incarnations of Texans GMs. I've noticed he's quite and He's got a lot of games against good teams to do easy scouting against, considering he plays U3 6 times. So we're in for a good couple of seasons over the next 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting to see how some of these records evolve over time from where they are now. I think it's fair to say there's probably a couple on offense and a couple on defense that are probably not going to be broken for a little while, but everything else seems pretty much fair game. But before we we close out now, is there any sort of final comments or observations from anyone on the defensive records or on the offensive records for this podcast?
I just like how he pointed out some of the things we've seen with the new GMs, like the Raiders and the Chargers are just the talk of the
Chargers as well.
That they're just having breakout seasons.
Chargers offense is something. That is a really good offense, by the way. It's just the defense down.
Yeah,
that was the hardest for me personally because I run the defense for Lions. That was the hardest offensive scheme to try and beat this year that we had by country mile.
And my other one is, like you said, Dallas. Everyone was really worried about Dallas when they first came into the league, and they're probably going to be winning their division or competitive to win their division by next season with
Yep.
all the picks that they've accumulated. So
Ideally, they don't win it this season because we have their pick. So if they could just stop winning games, that would be great. That would be very much appreciated in the North.
I think they're too far behind the Giants. I think if the Giants get one more mathematically,
Okay.
I think they're
Okay, I'm
they're
going to
done.
have to cut us off here because we've got a playoff episode coming out on Friday. So I don't want to dive too much into that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys.
All
You're
right.
going to have to wait until then. You can take that away. But is there anything else in terms of player records, or should we'll save the playoff talk and the GM talk until Friday?
Yeah.
No,
all right.
I think that's great.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. Thank you very much for everyone for coming on. And as I said, we'll be back on Friday. Possibly with the same guest, possibly different guest, maybe an additional guest, who knows, to talk about the playoff run-in and just talk purely teams, purely the off-season, purely everything else apart from player records. But thanks for coming on, guys, and we'll catch up then.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. See ya.
Take care.